Clockers is a 1995 crime film directed by Spike Lee about young drug pushers working in the projects of Brooklyn and the difficulties they face, trapped between their blackmailing drug bosses and the detectives out to stop them. Originally, Clockers was going to be directed by Martin Scorsese, with Robert De Niro in the role of the homicide detective Rocco, who is played by Harvey Keitel in the movie. He eventually passed, which is a good thing because he instead made the mob movie classic Casino with De Niro. And seeing as though Clockers deals with the difficulties that young black men in poverty grow up with, Lee is obviously the more apt choice for the material. The fact that Rocco being the main character under Scorsese is interesting in of itself because I find it quite strange and unorthodox who Clockers has as its main character. You've got the detective who's looking to solve a murder of a black night manager of a fast food chain shop and is unconvinced with the confession of a young black man who is a straight arrow, a church-going father with 2 jobs looking to make ends meet for his family. His brother is the one who is ordered by his drug boss to kill the man, and we don't see which of the brothers did it, but the drug runner brother, Strike, is a character who, whilst contradictory and conflicted, is a far less sympathetic character than his brother. He's the one who came and talked shit about the murdered guy to his brother before the shooting takes place. At the hysterical opposition of the boy's mother, he takes a 12-year-old under his wing who he trains in drug dealing and is complicit in the boy's actions later on in the film, which includes shooting and murdering a grown man. And there's a fair few other things that this guy does that just makes you think he isn't a very likable dude, even if there is some good in him. So it's weird that of all the characters in the film, from the cop, the straight arrow brother, the drug boss, another cop who is black and wants good for the future generation in the neighborhood, of all the characters in the film, Strike is the protagonist. Perhaps that's the point, to let us see the point of view from the kind of character who in most hood movies might be just another junkie or statistic once he ends up as a dead body on the sidewalk, and the point of the film is to have a glimpse at the life of these kind of people. After all, it is called Clockers, and when you acknowledge and accept the approach of the film, it is quite sad and tragic on behalf of the main character, especially when you factor in the manipulative nature of his mentor, the drug boss Rodney, who acts as a charismatic father figure to Strike but is ultimately a selfish criminal who takes advantages of young boys looking for guidance and direction. He reminded me quite a lot of Dutch Van der Linde from the Red Dead Redemption video games. The choice of protagonist gives the film a bit of a mean-spirited and nihilistic feel, and in general this is a really dark and bleak movie, very unlike the colourful Spike Lee films I'm used to. There's a notable lack of humour and an emphasis on the trapped nature of the characters and the claustrophobic environment they are born into. But Lee does it really well. The film feels very authentic in its rough and dirty presentation. The actors all seem like people straight out of that neighbourhood. The dialogue felt so real, I actually had trouble at times understanding what people were trying to say with their dialect. Lee does tend to break the immersion a few times though, like putting himself in 2 scenes, and indulgent camera choices that bring attention to the camera, which seems at odd with the gritty nature of the rest of the film. Maybe it's the Scorsese influence left over when it was his project. Speaking of which, I did find the music a little distracting. It was a constant ever-presence. There were very few scenes of this movie that weren't accompanied by a soundtrack, and often it didn't seem like the song choice matched with the mood of the scene. There might be a tense confrontation between 2 characters, and some jazzy song is playing in the background. Sometimes this oxymoronic juxtaposition works, again Scorsese, but there were a few instances that stuck out in the movie where it really didn't. I like the fact that the main character has a stomach problem, and also something, that seemed to be amplified when he was stressed. It's like when Lee used heat as a metaphor for the racial tensions in Do the Right Thing. Strike's sickness represents the illness of drugs and guns that plague the ghetto life. Clockers is quite an interesting insight into the problems killing blacks in America. It did fly under the radar though. I wonder why that is. Maybe because the subject matter had already been done numerous times before, like with the fantastic Boys in the Hood. Still though, I thought it was pretty good. I give it a 7 out of 10.